Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a new episode of Chatting with Lady Sing. Hello, Mum, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, honey. And you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, good.
Yes. I like the little brooch that's a little bit hidden, but because I saw it before, but they might not see it. It looks really nice.
Oh, thank you, honey, thank you. And I love your shirt. Beautiful Cialan cotton, absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, well, I was about to give it away because it's not me anymore, but I'm keeping it for the videos.
Oh, good.
I have a whole load of shirts, actually. I was like 2 bags of shirts that I was going to give away to charity before we started this. And then we started it, and I was like, I should keep it because at least I have shirts, and because I would have run out of shirts by now if I didn't keep all my shirts.
Oh, good. No, well, I'm glad you didn't give that away because it's really very chic. Anyway.
I think it's a bit too flash, but
well,
it's fine.
I'm glad you don't like flashy.
I got it when I was 19, so...
19?
Yeah.
8 years ago?
Yeah. This would have been one of my first shirts I got 8 years ago.
Really?
And as you can see, I've only worn it once, and it's probably the second time.
Okay.
That's how much it shows
you didn't
bad
like
choices. All right, so we're going to start off. So our first question today is from Mary Farrell. I have a question. It has been said Prince Philip has washed his hands of Harry, does not want Meghan anywhere around him. What is your take on this?
Well, yes. It's not surprising that Prince Philip would not approve of Harry or indeed Meghan. Prince Philip has when the Queen acceded to the throne, he had to give up his naval career. He had ambitions to be the first Sea Lord, as indeed had his grandfather, Prince Louis of Battenberg, and his uncle, who became Lord Louis Mountbatten, then Earl Mountbatten of Burnley. He was also first Sea Lord. And Prince Philip was supposedly a very gifted naval officer. He's very intelligent, very hardworking, very resourceful. He is the perfect product of a disturbed upbringing that has made it work for his betterment and the betterment of society generally. He puts duty above all else and puts duty to the crown first. He willingly, but not happily, in fact very unhappily, gave up his naval career to be the Queen's consort. And he just doesn't understand anybody who has a position such as Harry had and such as Meghan managed to marry into, that would chuck it and chuck their duty to the crown and to the monarchy and to the British people. Because remember, he has served the British people through serving the crown. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand how Harry and Meghan can have chucked everything for financial independence and liberty. That is the freedom to indulge their wishes and do as they want. Prince Philip is the product of a world, and actually so am I, where duty came first. And I'm sure you have on many occasions seen me do things that I was not feeling up to. I wasn't in the mood to do, I didn't want to do, I wasn't well enough to do, and I did. Have you not?
Well, like everyone.
Exactly. So there's nothing...
If you have to do it, you have to do it.
Exactly. There's nothing unique about fulfilling your duty. It is what decent people do. And he does not get it, and he does not approve of it. He wanted to have nothing to do with that Sandringham conference. He made a point of leaving before the arrival of the others. He doesn't approve, and why should he approve? He has given up so much willingly, and he has not focused on what he lost. He has focused on what he could do and did do. And it's got to be said, Harry's not the first Skyver offer that Philip has disapproved of. He disapproved violently of Fergie, violently, to such an extent that he refused to be in the same room as her or in the same building as her until quite recently, when at Harry's wedding he had to be in the same building as her. But he has, for the last nearly 30 years now, had absolutely nothing to do with Fergie. And he has made it very clear that he disapproves of people who do not fulfill their duty. I cannot condemn him for that, I've got to say. I also slightly don't get people who have the opportunity to do so much good for so many people and decide, I'm going to do what I want. I think it's gross self-indulgence, and I think it's really not anything admirable. And I do not believe that there's anything commendable about Harry's and Meghan's departure to make money in Hollywood and star in videos on a daily basis. Prince Philip has had a very successful life. He's one of the fathers of the ecological movement. He put up with an awful lot of negative publicity and brickbats for much of his life. And he did it because he understood what his duty was.
So for our next question today, Christine Clark, Lady C or anyone who can, please answer me this. I understand the impression that if anything happens to William, Harry will take over the crown until George is of age. Is that true?
Well, okay. If William should die or be incapacitated, and Prince Charles is dead, and Prince George is a minor, there would be a regency. What Christine Clark is referring to is a regency. There are various rules and regulations governing being a regent or being a councillor of state. Customarily, it used to be the first 6 nearest to the throne adults. Well, Harry has excluded himself from that number by stepping out of his duties. So there is no prospect of Harry being appointed a councillor of state. It would go to the ones below him in the line of succession if he remains in the line of succession. It is very unlikely, if William should die or be incapacitated, that Catherine would not be made a councillor of state. And I suspect that Catherine would also be a joint regent. I cannot see that, because of the exemplary way in which she conducts herself, that her role would be overlooked, and certainly not for a flake like Harry to supplant her. It will not happen. I think it would be Catherine and Prince Edward, who presumably by then would be the Duke of Edinburgh, because his father can't live forever, even though it would be nice if he did. and there would be a Regency Council, but I suspect that it is very unlikely that Catherine would not be a regent, and I also think that Prince Edward would be a regent as well, and joint regents with a Regency Council with advisors. So I hope that answers the question. Hopefully it will never happen, but I think the possibility of Harry, whether he is in the line of succession or not at the time, having any part of a regency, I think is very remote. There is tremendous bitterness behind the scenes and tremendous disapproval for the way Harry has conducted himself and the completely undutiful way in which he has behaved. The idea of Harry and Meghan swanning back and he becomes the Prince Regent and she's swanning around, posing and doing videos and, oh, I'm sorry. I mean, this is a very serious institution and they've already made asses of it while making asses of themselves. But I think there's no prospect whatsoever of Harry playing any part in a regency. Next question, honey.
Hi, Lady C. What are your thoughts on actor Laurence Fox starting a new political party, Reclaim? And do you know or have met any of the famous Fox family?
Okay, well, I think there's certainly a need for the public to be aware of the fact that there are segments of this population that do not wish to have British culture thrown under the bus of woke left-wing political activists who are willing to apologize not only for what the British nation and the British civilization did wrong, but what they did right. And I think I will watch the space. I wish Laurence Fox all the luck in the world. I'm not about to join the Reclaim Party, certainly not at this stage. I do have a lot of sympathy for many of his tenets. I think that the tearing down of statues and the rewriting of history is deeply regrettable. I think the woke left-wing movement that wishes to destroy the visible proof of our history on spurious grounds, such as the fact that some of our eminent leaders had slaves. Well, I've got news for you. Everybody had slaves until the middle of the 19th century, virtually. Practically every country on earth was a slave society, as I have said before. And in the 20th century, the only nations that had slaves were the nations of color. So the whole movement is completely fallacious, it's illogical, it's destructive. And I think that instead of tearing down statues to people who had slaves in a day and age where everybody had slaves. I mean, even Muhammad was the product of a slave society, and Muhammad had relations who were in the slave trade. So, Jesus was a product of a slave society. Jesus never once condemned slavery. Buddha was the product of a slave society. Buddha never once condemned slavery. You know, where are all of these crazy left-wing woke idiots coming from? Well, I know where they're coming from, a point of ignorance. And they're in love with the sound of their own voices. But I am hoping that the mainstream political parties will make the necessary adjustments, failing which Laurence Fox's Reclaim Party might end up becoming a mainstream political party, in much the same way that 130 years ago, there were really two main political parties, the Liberal Party and the Tory Party. And then the Labour Party was created in England, and the Labour Party became the secondary party, and then the main political party for much of the 20th century, sharing government with the Conservative Party. And the Liberal Party, which had been a very mighty party, ended up being very third rate, and it still is very third rate. So it is possible that if Laurence Fox and his supporters play their cards right, that they could possibly grow in to the 21st century equivalent of the 20th century Labour Party. It is possible because the choice in British society nowadays, and in American society as well, is not between the Democrats and the Republicans and the Conservatives and Labour, or the Scottish Nationalist Party and the Liberals, etc. in England, which are secondary factors in the political scenario at the moment. The real war that is shaping up is between those who value a Western society that has liberal, conservative attributes, or a Western society that is woke, illiberal, not at all interested in conservation, but only interested in change. And I use the words liberal, conservative in their generic meaning, where free and, people are free to choose, and the people wish to conserve that which is good. And Laurence Fox's movement is an attempt to reiterate the fact that we are in danger in this country, irrespective of which party is in power, of pandering to various forces that are interested in destroying the liberal conservative aspects of British society. And in America, the same thing applies. But I do not yet see that there is a party that says we don't want the wokes. So I think America is a little bit behind us in this instance, because the Republicans and the Democrats are still the two crystalline parties. While in this country, because we are more left-wing than America, we, even if you're conservative with a small c and conservative with a large c, so much is going on that does not wish to address conserving that part of our society which has been positive and good, but wishes to just jump on the woke bandwagon and sweep away the whole thing, so that then we'll have all sorts of intolerant people. We will have a neo-Puritan age of intolerance. So, what do you think of that?
No comment. I keep out political stuff.
Okay.
Alison Ford. I wonder if Meghan loses, she automatically pays the costs of the other side. I am not sure on that one. I would think if they give the titles up voluntarily, won't that mean they can use them any time they like in the future?
Well, Miss Ford seems to have asked two questions at once. In fact, yes. If they voluntarily surrender the use of their titles and they are not stripped from them, theoretically they would be able to resume using them. This would all have to be hammered out and done by consent. But if technically, legally, he remains Prince Henry, Duke of Sussex, His Royal Highness, all of which he is technically at the moment, she automatically, it all follows with her. If they get divorced, it's another matter. If they voluntarily give up their titles, which there has been talk behind the scenes that they are positioning themselves, or at least considering doing, they have the right to resume them. So let's see what happens there. Now, insofar as the lawsuit against the Mail on Sunday is concerned, if she loses, she has to pay the other side's costs. In England, if you lose a lawsuit, you automatically have to pay the winner's costs. Not usually on an indemnity basis. That means not absolutely everything, but the large percentage of the costs. This last application which Meghan lost, the costs were radically different. Meghan's costs were something along the lines of £140,000, and the Mail on Sunday's costs were on the line of £39,000, if I remember correctly. If she loses, she's going to have to, that principle continues in force, and she will have to pay the lion's share of Associated Newspapers' costs. But what I find interesting is how much more expensive her costs are than theirs. Partly that is because they have in-house lawyers, but they are allowed to charge at a proper rate. So all of this suggests to me that Meghan is a very strong-willed, self-willed, I'm Rachel Zane and I'm going to tell you how it's done. I've been a paralegal for 7 years and I don't care that you're a QC. What the hell's a QC? QC Queen's Counsel. I'm Empress. I was Rachel Zane. I'm telling you how it's done. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And I understand behind the scenes that that's what she's been doing with her lawyers. Well, of course, it's a win-win situation for the lawyers. If they do not approve, and I know that they have not approved of everything she has done, because I am sufficiently experienced with litigation to be able to read between the lines, even when I'm not informed of what's been going on. And I do have friends, as you know, on the other side. And so I do know some of what is going on, because everybody talks and, you know, everybody knows everybody else. And the lawyers all know each other. But the complete disparity and the complete disproportion between her costs and their costs show that, and also the scattergun approach. She has a scattergun approach to everything. That's just swimming. Her favorite saying as Rachel saying was something along the lines of the power of a slap or two. She rarely thinks that, she's naive enough and really dumb enough. I mean, she thinks she's clever, and she is clever in that she's resourceful and has a brain and thinks, but not so clever as to actually understand that her actions are detrimental to her interests. And my understanding is that she has been telling them what she should be doing, because she, of course, as Rachel said, knows far better than any of them. And it's going to show. So she's not only going to have her costs to pay, she's going to have Associated Newspapers' costs to pay. And when it goes to trial, it will be a QC, a junior, clerks, endless, in a lawsuit of this nature, there are endless functionaries and underlings, all of which are involved and all of which have to be paid. But I suppose to her it's worth it, because she's Rachel Zane and she knows better than everybody else. But what is also interesting, I should make as a point, which has so far nobody seems to have considered, even if she wins the case, she's going to lose. And I'll tell you why she's going to lose. If not superficially, in reality, because Meghan cannot prove that she has suffered any damage. And if you have suffered no damages, even if you win, you lose. There is a famous book written by Leon Uris about a very famous case where it was about a former attendant in a concentration camp who sued for libel, won the case, but was awarded 1 penny damages, and therefore had to pay the costs of both sides. So if Meghan cannot prove damage, and she can't, because the Omid Scobie book is now being used by Associated Newspapers, and Judge Warby is going to have to take the view, hang on a second, how great can her suffering be if she has complained about superficial aspects of a letter she deliberately wrote to her father for publication elsewhere. But she has cooperated with a book in terms of when she was nude, when she defecated in the desert in front of Harry, who kissed whom first, who said, I love you first to whom. So she's on a very sticky wicket, and I think, but it's a platform for her as well, you see. She's not going to be able to resist, possibly, the lure of appearing in court every day and, walking in, the drama of it all. I mean, people who've never had to actually, people who don't understand how serious litigation is and how traumatizing it really is if you are truly fighting for something worth fighting for, as opposed to a photo opportunity. you know, it's very traumatizing, but to her, it's not, clearly. She says it is, but the reality is that she wants her day in court because she wants to pose. She wants to be photographed in and out. It's going to be, and look at me, I'm Rachel Zane, I'm Rachel. Oh, what else am I? Rachel, what's her other name? Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex. Look at me. Don't I look fabulous? God, just so look at those flashbulbs going. I definitely exist as a major celebrity, but she's going to pay the price. Any other questions?
No, that's the one for today.
Okay, well, thank you very much, honey. Thank you for listening. I hope you found this interesting and enjoyable. Please keep the questions coming in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you very much, and goodbye.